A lot of people think that the only reason to pray is to ask God for things, but I'll give you a really big reason to pray, which is to shut off that voice in your head, the one that's constantly there, the one that never shuts up, the one that tells you you're bored all the time, the one that tells you to check your phone, the one that tells you that wherever you are is not quite right and that something better is happening somewhere else. Most people think that voice is just part of being human, and it's not. You hear it in church, when the voice tells you this is boring, you already heard this sermon, or how much longer is this going to last? You hear it in class, you hear it at dinner, you hear it in conversations. You hear it where someone's talking and you're nodding, but you're not really there. You even hear it when you're alone, the moment things are quiet and your mind starts to scramble looking for noise. That voice hates silence. It hates stillness. It hates presence. And I once heard a priest explain it this way. He said, the fall didn't just mess up what we desire, it fractured our attention. Before that moment in the garden, we weren't constantly watching ourselves. We weren't narrating everything. We weren't judging anything. We weren't comparing anything. We weren't meant, in other words, to carry the knowledge of good and evil the way God does. And that wasn't power, that was overload. The moment we reached for it, the moment we tried to be like God, something split. Our attention split. It turned inward, and it never fully healed. Think about it like this. Physicists say that there's still this background radiation left over from the Big Bang. It's everywhere. You can't see it, you can't escape it, but it's always there. That voice in your head is like that radiation. It's leftover static from the moment when everything broke, a kind of spiritual background noise that's been running ever since, always evaluating, always narrating, always pulling you out of the moment. And that's why silence feels uncomfortable. That's why you reach for your phone the second there's nothing demanding your attention. That's why being fully present, really present, feels strangely difficult. Not because you're weak, but because something in us was never meant to live in constant self-awareness. So why pray? Because prayer is how you interrupt the noise. Everyone today talks about mindfulness. Notice your thoughts, watch your thoughts, be aware of them. And that helps. But prayer goes further. Prayer doesn't just notice the voice, prayer cuts through it. And this is why simple, repetitive prayers work so well. The Our Father, the Hail Mary, the Jesus prayer, the whole rosary. Not because they distract you, but because they reorder your attention. They give your mind something true to lock onto when everything else is pulling it apart. You're not emptying your mind, you're aiming it. And when you do that, something changes. You start to be able to stay in the conversation. You stop reaching for your phone. You can sit in silence without panicking. You actually hear what's being said by others and by God. Prayer doesn't remove the noise forever, but it's the reps you put in to be able to quiet. And it stops it from running your life. So why pray? Because that voice in your head is not going away. But prayer will give you a way to stop obeying it, a way to quiet it, a way to stay where you are, to be present, to be honest, and to be real. And honestly, that might be one of the main reasons prayer exists at all.